I hear a lot of advice online telling people that once you breach the 50,270 mark, which is the threshold for 40% tax in this country, that you should just salary sacrifice anything above that into your pension. Now, whilst on the face of it, that is reasonable advice, at what point are you allowing the tax tail to wag the lifestyle dog, as it were? For many people, avoiding 40% tax is an absolute no-brainer because they resent paying tax or they just don't want to see that amount of money being taken away from them. But are you artificially capping both your lifestyle and your earnings for no real reason? And the difference in income tax and national insurance as a basic rate taxpayer and a higher rate taxpayer is actually not as great as you might think. The combination as a basic rate taxpayer is 20% tax and 8% national insurance, whereas as a higher rate payer, it's 40% tax, but only 2% national insurance. The difference between those two is not the 20% you might think, but just 14 percentage points. So in that scenario, is it really worth it? Well, that all depends on your situation, really. Depending on where you live in the country may play a factor. The take-home pay on 50,270, assuming 5% pension contributions via salary sacrifice, leaves you with a take-home pay of £3,158. If you factor in some student loan on top of that, then obviously that comes down a little bit further. With the cost of living increasing and the thresholds not moving, you're therefore capping your household income, or at least your personal income, to a little over £3,000, which in 10 years' time will potentially be worth considerably less. So why do you do it? There are many reasons out there, but one of them is people just resent paying tax. And actually, I think taxation in this country is reasonably fair, with the exception of the tax trap that exists at 100k. So the advice for people at 100 or between 100 and 125k would be different to this particular scenario. However, that gap, as I said, at 14 percentage points isn't enough to really cap your lifestyle there, I don't think. A lifestyle creep is a very dangerous thing, and you can quite easily just see pay rises go into things that you don't necessarily need. But with a growing family, or wanting to improve your life in terms of better homes or other assets, then you're going to need money to do that. So for a long time, I did want to avoid 40% tax, but as soon as you get to kind of 60, 70, 80,000 pounds, having to hand over 30,000 pounds into a pension fund that you will not see for 10, 15, 20, maybe even longer years, makes you start to consider whether your priorities are in the right place. Now, there are other things to consider, of course. If you have a family with children, you can obviously receive child benefit, and the taper for that begins at £60,000 and ends at 80. So depending on how many children you've got, by salary sacrificing down from 80,000 to 50,000, not only would you put £30,000 into your pension at a considerably lower cost than £30,000, you'd also be eligible then to claim for the child benefit. However, that is not going to make up the difference in your take-home pay. One thing I would say is, when you are making your pension contributions, do at the very least put in enough that you are maximizing your employer's contributions. As always, personal finance is personal, so do not feel bad about paying tax at a higher level. For a long time, I was stuck in the tax trap between 100 and 125,000 pounds because I just wanted to take home, and that's okay. If you are comfortable paying the tax, that is what's right for you and your family. Don't feel bad about paying tax. I put a lot of my stuff out online, and so obviously I am subject to a lot of comments and opinions on what I do with my money and whether it's tax efficient and stuff. Life isn't about living as efficiently as possible. It is about enjoying the time that you have here, time with your family, and if that costs money, you're going to have to pay the tax to get it. Let me know what you think on this. Do you live as tax efficiently as you possibly can in the hope that you get to enjoy that money later on, or do you just take your lifestyle first approach and pay the tax that you need to in order to make that happen? Let me know in the comments below.